Alright, hello, I'm Wallaber, and this is a Pro Gymnast dev stream. Notice I always say it like tiny intro and then take a drink. Terrible timing. But we're back here working on Pro Gymnast. Today is going to be a short stream. I don't want to be on here too long today, just wanted to get a little work done though. And the main thing we're going to look at is this to-do list. And I have a handful of things in here that are bugs and issues that people have reported or I have observed. I want to just sort of make some progress on addressing some of these. So I'm just going to try and hit as many of these as I can out of the gate. And one of the biggest ones I saw is a few people are having trouble with different controllers not working with the game. And I wanted to double check if on joystick maps, if I have actually set up which ones I've actually set up. So I think maybe all I have is this thing called a gamepad. Oh no, I have unknown controller. No, I don't have it set up, do I? Yeah. I have UI set up. Okay. So this is probably why some controllers aren't working that great. Also, I may need to make a manual map for the Xbox One because it was so a few people have had trouble remapping things with it. So my gamepad template here, what I probably want to do is I want to copy this. Oh, no, not that. I guess I have to just make one. I think I need to make one for unknown controller. Okay, so I believe that the way that this system I'm using called Rewired works is that it knows about all these controllers here. And so when you plug in a controller or one's connected, when you launch the game, if it finds it in this list, it will use the specific mapping you've created, or if one doesn't exist, then it will fall back to the type of controller that it is. And so most of these would fall in the gamepad category. And so then it picks this gamepad template, which is the one I have fully set up here, and is the main one for, the main one for the game, which works pretty well. But if it doesn't recognize them, it can land in this unknown controller bucket. And if you don't have anything mapped to some of these things, you won't be able to control the game. And I believe this is why some players, when they play the game, they can manipulate the UI to some degree, because they at least have some buttons mapped here. But they can't play the game because nothing is mapped. So I'm wondering if there's a simple way to import some of this stuff over, but maybe not. Because copy map says copy it from copy the category default and the layout default. Or editor to layout, I see. Yeah, that's not what I want. Alright, well let's try getting in basics here. So we're gonna need legs horizontal, we're gonna need legs vertical, arms horizontal, arms vertical. Then we need focus, we need action, we need reset, we need pull arms, pull legs, we need twist, and then we need menu. And menu, do I have to look at that? We have menu, and then we have tight grip. Okay. Actually, I wanted to look at something real quick. So, in actions, yeah, you can set whether it's visible in lists or not. Okay, I'm gonna revisit that in a second because there's a controller overlap issue as well that I need to double check. But let's let's get this set up. So the unknown controller for default, which is gameplay, we're going to create a map. And I guess we can say create defaults, and now there's just like all the buttons and stuff. So axis 0. Let's go look at this, because UI says 0 and 1 would be horizontal and vertical. So that's going to be legs horizontal. And this is going to be legs vertical. And then I assume 2 and 3 should be arms horizontal and arms vertical. Okay. And then we want, like, I would say button 0 will make action, which is release. And then button 1, let's make that focus. And then button 2 can be reset. Reset. And then button 3 can be twist. Button 4 can be menu. I see, there's actually a hat up, down, left, right. And I technically previously had a hat, a twist is on hat right. Hat 0 right, we could say, is twist. Yeah, maybe make a couple of these map to the menu then. Okay. Then tight grip is not the most important one, but we'll just give it one. And then pull arms and pull legs, we're going to make those as axes, hoping that they work like triggers. Okay, so that should give some kind of mapping to the gameplay. I'm not too worried about the editor, but we could at least create some defaults here. So this would be cursor X. This is going to be cursor Y. And then we'll go down here and say button 0 is select. Rotate is on axis 2. Rotate. And then we're gonna have what is it? Add. Kind of tedious. Delete. So we have select, add, and delete. Okay, and then we just have editor menu. And then we'll go down here because we had the D-pad set up. So we'll say hat up is editor undo. Hat down is editor redo. Hat left is editor toggle position snapping. And hat right is editor toggle rotation snapping. Okay, and then multi-select. So we'll just plop these on buttons somewhere. Here, editor, multi-select, and editor signal edit. Okay. And we'll put axis 3 is editor zoom in, and axis 4 is editor zoom out. That's probably gonna behave strangely, but at least there'll be some mapping. Okay. That should be enough to at least get people the ability to play the game, and we can see if this makes any improvements in the next patch, and then if so, we can maybe improve it even further. Now let's look at Xbox One controller. Okay. Well, so that was add a map for unknown controller. Okay, now let's look at this. So if I connect up an Xbox One controller, okay, and then we go to the game. Yeah, the other thing we can do is we can look here and say, yeah, we don't want that. Windows. Use X input. Yeah, I wonder if I should be using X input or not. Let's try something. Let's turn this off. And see how this controller behaves if we're not using X input. I think we might actually like it better that way. Let's see. At some point, hopefully this is gonna play. Ugh, I don't like hitting play when I'm in prefab edit mode. Sometimes that can be weird. Or what is going on here? There we go. Okay. What's going on here? Okay. So if we go to game settings, control layout, now it's got names for all these things, right? Strict, guide button, blah, blah, blah. So that's cool. And if we go here to active joystick, we see Xbox One controller shows up. Before, so let's check this out. If I turn this, if I unplay mode here, and I go back to this, input manager prefab, and I turn on in Windows, use X input. Okay, and then we run. I was seeing something different, which is it seems like X input kind of hides some information, and so Rewired isn't able to be quite as smart about what's connected. So you see here, if I go to game settings, change control layout, it just says button, 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 button. And if I go here, it just says there's an X input gamepad connected. It doesn't actually say Xbox One. And so I actually think the Xbox One problems people were having is probably related to that. So we're gonna get a little scary here, and we're gonna turn off X input. Okay, cool. And then what we're gonna do is also one thing that players have had trouble with is my mapping of the retry button, which I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to change the default. But what happens here is right now it shows menu is only mapped to one thing, but actually in my system it's mapped to more than one. And so I think there was a problem here where a player was like gonna map reset to menu button. And here it looks okay because it says, oh, bringing up the menu is mapped to the guide button. And I believe if we do this, what happens is, go play. Okay, we go into a level. And so now the B button should not retry. It's kind of laggy today. I wonder what's going on. Yeah. The B button I'm pressing right now is not retrying, and then if I press the button I just mapped, it actually pauses the game. As well as resetting. See, it resets and pauses the game. Because they're both mapped to that. And so this is my challenge, because the way I have it set up right now is that this is not what I wanted to do. Come on. Man, Unity is running terrible today. Am I dropping frames on OBS as well? No? Okay. So if I go look at this, I have the action for in the game bring up the menu, and I have it mapped by default to all of the quote-unquote center buttons on the controller. I did that so that kind of depending on what type of controller you have, you just sort of press any of those buttons in the middle that kind of feel like a pause button, and they would all work. But the problem with this is that you can see here that the first one is the one that's showing up in the remap screen. It's not getting rid of these other two when you remap it. And so it stays double mapped. Now, pretty sure there was a thing here related to that. Yeah, so default is user assignable. Yeah, and yeah. Visible in lists, yes. There's something about... I wonder if there's some kind of rule for when they're double mapped or something. Input behaviors. No, these are all the core values here. We're not worried about that too much. Custom controllers, not too worried about that. See, I'm not in love with the idea of removing some of these because some players might already be relying on them and they may work well. I wonder if I can go look at my remapping screen. What even is that screen? Is it like controls? What do they call it? Nope. No. Called remap? Let's go look at it. So we go to the menus, settings, gameplay, settings, control mapping. And it has a settings control mapping script on it. Okay, I haven't looked at this code in a while because this is mostly just sort of like taken from the examples and rewired of how you do controller remapping. Yeah, we see a reput controller connected, disconnected, input mapped event, input, okay. And so then what happens here is, where do those buttons get set up? Here we are. Okay, we create a row. We lay them all out. Okay. And then okay, set up some okay, so keyboard, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. Otherwise down here we do it right here, I think. Start listening delayed. Okay. Okay. And then we call mmapper.start. And you give it a mapping context. So you give it the action ID, the map, the range, and the action element map. Is there any other fields on this thing? Let's see. Let's go look at this. Can I find that definition, please? Can we find this definition? Maybe not, because it's in a package. Let's go back to Unity. And let's go down here to packages. Is it packages or is it? It's in here. Rewired. Okay. Internal scripts. Oh, maybe it's not an internal. That's a rewired, right? Rewired. Data, dev tools, examples, extras, integration. No. Internal. Data. Libraries. Runtime. Scripts. Okay. So let's go to here. And well, what do we want to do? We want to look at the controller mapping screen. Control mapper. Okay. So they have ones built in. Conflict checking. Before a controller element is bound, a conflict check can be performed to determine if any existing bindings exist would conflict. So you can determine what action to take. Okay. So that's nice. Where's the like API reference? Because I've written my own little remapper here. Probably shouldn't have, but I did. Okay. Okay, it's overview, release notes, and execution deployment, API reference. Here we go. What class am I using? Input mapper. Okay, input mapper. And mapping context. Input mapper.context. Okay, so here's what we have. The one you are replacing, if you are replacing one, the action ID, the action name, the convenience, and the range. Okay. Okay, so that's fine. So then on input mapped. So what do we have here in data? Do we get any info about, or how do we check for let's see. Okay, this is the input mapper class. Status. Idle, listening, awaiting response. Okay, that's fine. Conflict found event. So how does this work? Okay, so maybe we should handle that as well. So where do we do this? Right here. So we could say mmapper conflict found event plus equals on conflict found. Okay. And let's go down here to on input mapped. On input mapped. Okay. Right here. And let's add in a private void on conflict found. Okay. And then we're going to be like, what does this thing tell us? It's a list of conflict data. Invoke this callback to send a response to the input mapper. Okay. Cool. So let's... What is this? Element assignment conflict info. Element assignment conflict info in data.conflicts. Okay, so what does this give us? Gives us the action ID, gives us a bunch of information. Okay, so we can be like debug.log data.assignment.action, and then we can say plus new mapping conflicts with, and then we would do plus info.action ID. Okay, so let's just see if this actually works. Because maybe then we can tell it we're okay with overwriting it or something, and maybe we'll do that for the case where it's the menu button or something like that. This is like the case where if I had used the built-in remapping thing and just skinned it to look like my UI and stuff, that may have been faster and better than creating my own UI for it. Okay. Let's run this and see what happens. Man, this is running super slow today. I wonder what's going on. Okay, game settings. Change control layout. We want to map reset to the menu button. Okay, it doesn't look like a conflict was found, right? I didn't see anything printed out here. I guess we could try... running a breakpoint here and see if we hit anything. Oh, wait a minute. I think I did something dumb here. We want it to be here. No, still not finding... what if I set it to the guide button? Oh, this doesn't work well because these buttons like cause actions to happen. View button. Can't capture this one because this is like the Xbox button. Interesting. Menu. Surprised that's not reporting a conflict. That's all it says. Event is triggered when an assignment conflict is found. Started, stopped, mapped, cancelled, conflict found. Okay, I have some events here I'm not handling, which is probably not too great. That's why I can get it sometimes, I think, to keep showing listening when it's actually not anymore. Yeah, we have stopped. But no conflict found. I wonder if that's because... I don't have a good solution for this. And the other thing is that looking at that mapping screen, you can't tell that... Although, I mean, I have this mapping screen, so I suppose I could just map the pause button to just one of them. The only problem is that there's going to be players out there now who are currently playing the game and are used to pressing some button, and then they'll get an update, and that button will stop working, and they won't know how to pause the game. So I don't like that. Let's see. Map categories. Category selective conflict checking. Okay. Okay. So that's it. Map category, you say? Okay. Let's go look at this input manager one more time here. Map categories. So check conflicts with all, check with specific. So if I say check with specific, I say check against yourself. That should do it. This should now do it. Watch this. Now, okay, now when we run this, that callback should be called. It should be called. We'll see. Okay, so we go here to game settings, we go to change control layout, we go here to reset, and we map it to the menu button. Ahaha, look at this. Okay. And so now we've found that yeah, reset is conflicting with the other one, which was ID 17, which is going to be pause. And now, let me see what happens here. Yeah, it stays listening, but it's actually... Is it still listening? I'm not sure it actually is. In fact, we might... Yeah, I think we're stuck in a state here. And that is because I'm not... I think I need to call that callback, which is data.response callback. And we would need to invoke this. And we have to pass it a conflict response. Okay, cool. So we're going to come up with a... what is this going to be? We need to invoke it with a input mapper dot... Okay, so we need an input mapper, not manager, mapper dot conflict response. Okay. Isn't this a... Oh, it's an enum. Okay. What are our options? Add. Cancel. Conflict will be ignored. And polling will continue. Replace. What does replace mean? Conflicted mappings will be cleared and the new one added. Okay, cool. So So ideally what we want to do here is we want to check if like the action in question has more than one. So this is the thing we want, the assignment, right? I wonder if, like, I doubt this is going to be this nice and tell me this information here. Action ID. I think we're okay with just saying we're going to let you replace it. I think what we'll do is we'll say if, let's see. Yeah, we'll do something like this. So we'll be like input mapper dot conflict response equals input mapper dot conflict dot response dot, and our default is going to be to cancel. But if in here we see that if info dot is user assignable, and then we can say response equals input mapper dot conflict response dot replace, because you can handle it. And then we will return, no, not return, sorry. We're going to call data dot response callback dot invoke with our response. Okay. So this is not the most robust solution in the world. Like, I could certainly probably set up the game in some way where this is not enough. But I think this is going to work pretty well. Now let's see what happens if I map something to something that already exists. What should happen is that one then loses its mapping. Pretty sure. Which hopefully will be pretty clear then that you need to go fix it. But in the case of menus, that won't be super obvious because, yeah. Yeah. Let's test it out. Hopefully I just need to restart my computer or something, because Unity is being extremely sluggish today. Okay, change control layout. So if I go over here and I say I want to set this to be the menu button, it did it. Didn't complain. Now let's go see what happens when we play the game. What should happen is that there's no dual mapping for this button now. So if I press the menu button, we just reset. Yep, but this other button over here still brings up the menus. Cool. Okay, so now let's quit back out here. And now let's do an explicit overlap. So if I go here to game settings, change control layout, and instead I say, actually I want reset to be like the right shoulder button. Okay, so it didn't like undo this, which is interesting. Kind of would have thought what would happen is because it undid the mapping here, it would yeah, let's look at this real quick again. So what's actually happening here when we do this? If I go here and I say reset, go to the right shoulder. Ooh, it's not. Oh, probably not calling that a conflict because I deleted stuff. There. What's happening here? It's like, okay, we're gonna cancel, but wait a minute, we go in here, and the thing that you want to redo is user assignable. So you're gonna allow replacing, and then we should pop out of there, and then we run that, and then this should then come to here, right? Or does it not? It doesn't necessarily call the mapped then? maybe that's the only problem. Let's go check this. So if I set this to X or whatever, wait a minute. Now why isn't on input mapped hitting a breakpoint? I mean, it must be. Right? Okay, there we hit it. Now let's check this again. Let's go here. Set this to the right shoulder. We should hit that. And then we hit this. Okay. So then when we go into this, we are walking through each thing here. We're going to do the keyboard, and then we're going to do the joystick and everything. And probably what's happening here is, let me think about this. So we go down here. Okay, if there is no gamepad, we handle that. We grab the action element map. If it's a button, and we might be looping through this and not actually doing anything because we're not finding a map. I think that's probably the case. Let's look at that. So what should be happening here? And we have a handful of cases here as well, which is kind of annoying. Yeah. Eek. Okay, so the high level flow here. Let's just check my hypothesis. So we would be like if action element map dot or equals null. Yeah, let's see if we actually get back nulls. If we do, then what we have to do here is be like else, or sorry, this needs to be the non-null case. Okay, I gotta wrap it up for today too, so we'll just do this test real quick. And we could be like text equals, let's just test this, nothing assigned. Okay. Let's see if this works the way what's happening is what I think is happening. And to pick this up next time, try to kind of take this a little farther in terms of its level of quality and completeness. Okay. I think getting rid of the X input thing is going to be good though for Xbox One controller users. It's actually going to work much better. That's good. And we mapped in a generic joystick today, which should be useful change. Okay, so if I go over here and I take something that's, so this is mapped to right shoulder, so I say no, this is right shoulder now. Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay, so it doesn't come back as null. What else do you even have in this thing? get enumerator dot what dot current dot move next. Oh, is this, what is this thing actually returning? An enumerable of action element map. I guess that doesn't return null. Maybe what we could do here is say, let's try this really fast, and then we'll call it a day. So this is going to be bool found map equals false, and then oops, and then in here we could say found map equals true, and then here we can say if not found map text dot text equals no map. Let's test that real quick. Okay. Alright, I'm going to be wrapping this up for today. So tomorrow, expecting to do a short stream tomorrow, but I'm going to switch over to my little chat game I'm working on. Make a little progress on that, and then stream after that. We should be back to Pro Gymnast working through this task list. You know, these errors are not super extremely urgent, so I'm gonna take my time and work through fixing them before putting out another patch. I've already put out 2 since the game was released, and so far I haven't broken anything too majorly, so I want to keep keep that string going. Okay, yeah, look at this. Slow-mo, it says no map. Reset, it says no map. Interesting. I set that to menu. Set this to left shoulder. If we go like this, restore. Okay, cool. So this is working now, I think. Yeah, see there. Now that I did that, it knows that there's nothing mapped to this. That's cool. So I can make that stand out a little more. But we could go here and we could say like, so now if you go, yeah, if you make overlaps, like if I make this the right stick Y. Oh right, these ones aren't smart enough yet. I forgot about that. I can fix that though. Cool. Yeah, so we could be like, actually I want reset to be the X button. Slightly less used button. Or even like D-pad up or something. Yeah. Yeah, I may actually want, whatever. Okay, cool. So that's some solid improvements. So I'm gonna need to remember that I need to, right here, so we need to be like to do, make this a localized string and change button color, question mark. Then we also need to handle the case where it's an axis. So here, to do, handle case where there is no mapping. Similar to above with the button case. Okay, so that should be enough to get me back to what I was doing. In fact, we'll go here and we'll go to our, whoops, we'll go here, nope, here, and this is what we're working on right now. And we can add a little note for ourselves here that says, got the flow correct for button, do for axis. Also handle canceled mapping case. Okay, cool. So those are the cleanups we need to do for that. And we did this. We have better Xbox One controller support now. Okay, cool. Alright, so that's where I'm gonna cut it off for today. It was quite a short stream, but you know, I just want to make sure I'm kind of constantly making progress on this stuff, and that's how much time I had to work on it today. So I'll be back next time working on my chat minigame for a little bit, and then after that, we'll be back to continuing to work on Pro Gymnast. So have a good one. Bye.